All right, good morning. It is 8:32 on Tuesday, March 11th, 2025, and this is the meeting of the Sandpoint Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation, and we are now called to order. Roll call for the record. I am Chairwoman Ellie Sussness, presiding in the City Council Chambers in City Hall, 1123 Lake Street in Sandpoint, Idaho. Commission members who are present are Barry Burgess, Carol Diener, myself, Kate McAllister is absent. Caitlin Shook is here. Keely Gray is here. Mike Lithgow, who we normally have on Zoom, is absent so far. Rick Decker is here. Will Valentine is here. Jason Welker is our acting city liaison. And Jeremy Grimm, Mr. Mayor, is here.
New city liaison too.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome. All right, then we will proceed to the meeting minutes approval. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the February 11th, 2025 regular meeting. And I have a motion.
Approve.
Rick has a motion. Keely has seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? None heard. Motion passes. All right, we're heading into the financial report. Jason, could you give us the report?
Yep, it's in your staff report. We've got a downtown arts fund budget of $208,749 and a northern arts fund budget of $113,962. We have a budget in the Silver Box project of $1,684.
Great. Are there any questions on that? That's pretty much stayed stable the last time.
I think so.
All right. Move on then to commission business, the arts. So number 3 is the Big Billy Monster Art Program, and we're going to have an update. The fiscal coloring pages are at our pages are at our partners.
Oh, yeah, just click and share.
It's my first time sharing the screen, so bear with me. So proud of you. So the actual coloring pages are at our partners, the Bonner County History Museum Creations, Miller Paint Bucket, and of course at the City Hall lobby. This particular item was posted on the social media for the city on 3/6, and it is also on the city website headers, the current events. Thank you very much, city staff, for getting that together for us. It sounds like we did have a press release because I heard that it went out in the paper. It's great. Thank you very much. And the only other question I had was, did it go out to the schools and the Parks and Rec pack?
I don't know.
No one has given me
No.
anything to share, but I'd be happy to.
We would love that. We still have some time. The cutoff date is the 31st, so we still have plenty of time this month for kids to get some submissions in. Just so you know, there's been a couple that have been turned in already at the City Hall. That's where they need to be turned in, is here at the lobby. So there's a lot of fun things happening here. It looks like they get the idea of the door handle as the mouth, so that's wonderful. So I look forward to seeing more submissions. So then I think next month we'll need to decide how we're going to do the selection panel. I know that STC should be involved.
Yeah.
And I think you have.
Touch with the STC person.
Okay, and if you want to share that with me, that would be great. All right, is there any questions on how that's going?
Buffy, sound right?
I don't know.
Jason, is that Grace? Do you know?
The person I've been in touch with is Buffy Nustad at SCCU.
Because I know they have a new community liaison officer.
That was late 2024 that I was in touch with her. So they may have someone new by now, but could be played above.
I can also look through my emails.
Community engagement manager, Buffy Nostad.
Well, that's going great. So just let your friends and family and all your kiddos know that you need to pick up a sheet. Get a submission in.
I'm seeing lots of shares on Facebook. So.
Good, awesome. That's good to see.
One question, can you just describe how the conversion of this to an actual rap works? Does an artist take the student's work and like digitalize it basically?
Correct. So what we'll do is we'll take the design idea and I'm actually volunteering my time to do this. I'll convert it to a digital file that is not necessarily crayon. We'll just pick the colors and the general idea and make sure that it works with the configurations of the box and then convert it to a digital file that can be printed by the wrap.
Yep.
Order and yeah, it's gonna be great.
Okay, I'll ask some of the high school teachers to talk about it.
Oh, great.
If I could get a copy of that, I'll pick it up and then I'll give it to them.
The actual copies are available in the lobby and I can also,
If I can do that, then I'll give it to the teachers and.
School will be a little too old.
it's 4 to 12.
I have had a few people ask if there's a limit on how many they can submit per child.
Oh, there we
Like I saw some take a step. Because we read it and we couldn't find any.
Well, the commission suggested taking that limit off, so I suppose it's open to as many as
Okay.
you want to submit.
All right,
All right.
they're enthusiastic.
And if there's no more questions, we'll move on to the spring silver box project. Now, this is an action item because we need to decide if we're going to go forward with the silver box project. You know, we've talked about it and assumed that we were, but we need an official action in order to go to Sora and ask for funds. So the few things that I had questions about were, so the winter program is up until May 23rd. Are the art plaques actually on art yet?
I think they are with Maeve and Austin's been out of town. He's in
Oh.
Arizona this week, so I don't think they've replied yet, but.
Okay, we need to do that ASAP. Because May's gonna come creeping up quicker than we know. So today, we need to decide,
And that's when they, clarification, that's when they need to be taken down.
and so we're gonna be pushed on the time frame. As far as getting the new ones up, we have to have Sarah approve a budget, we have to get back here and get the RFP ready to go, and then we have to get council approval. So we may be pushing, getting more applied right after the winter ones are taken down, but we're gonna be close, depending on how this meeting goes.
Is there any way we could extend this one 6 months to be through the summer? What's that?
Not necessarily, because there's a
It'd
contract.
have to come back.
And the reason that we did it this way is because we want a spring install. So we're on track for what our plan was originally, but we're just a little behind now because of things that happened. So,
Is that going to affect the call time, like call out to artists?
possibly, that's what we'll have to decide once we decide if we're gonna do it, which I think that we have already unofficially decided that we want to keep the program going.
Yeah.
So what we do need to talk about is, do we want it to be a 1-year install? Spring install, 1 year, $1,000 seems to be the sweet spot in the stipend, because if artists from out of town wants to apply. If it's less than 500, if it's less than $1,000, it's really hard to ship something or, within that price range. So it doesn't make sense to do anything less than 1,000 for a year in our past experience. So, do you guys have thoughts?
I think it's a great program. Seeing the rotation of the art is always a really fun thing around downtown. So I'm definitely all in favor of like keeping it going and doing what we need to do to keep it going.
I like the 1 year. So the winter folks that come, the summer folks that come, both get to see.
I think it makes sense.
I love it. I love the, just the vibrancy it brings. You come downtown. My only thing I'd say is, this commission is gonna have to start doing more with less. So in terms of timing and, city, I think maybe even a 2-year something, so you're not putting as much pressure, because I'm not gonna be able to support you the way I supported the last couple of years.
I'll go for it, Carol.
Oh, the original project took, can't you remember, about 2 years, I think, by the time we got the box, the cement slabs and got somebody to put there's a lot of conflict about what we would do with them after we got them. We found them and they kind of, we got to put something around them. So I think that it's going to take longer than you think. It's a big project.
Extending them for another 6 months is easy enough. A contract extension like that just requires a signature. So if you want to extend it for another 6 months, Cheryl can make that happen pretty easily.
Well, my personal opinion is that we don't extend it. I want to get new art up there and I want to have it on there for a year with a spring install, so that next year we can do another spring install. And we start, a couple months ahead so that we don't run into our time crunch that we always do. Yes,
So you're not doing you're not going to do new ones. You're going to put them, I'm sorry, as I just got on this committee, you're just going to put them on the boxes you already have. You're not going to try to do anything more than that. So I think I agree with you. Get it done, because people are used to it. The art stays up too long and people, oh, it's not finished yet. And that's the kind of stuff you want people to talk about in the city.
I have a question for you, Mr. Mayor. You were mentioning more with less. I guess my question is a budget question. Isn't the Silver Box project paid for by SURA funds that are specifically designated to this commission?
Yeah, no, I'm saying, staff wise.
Okay.
We're gonna work through all the committees, but we need to, I'll just give an example. One of the committees the other day spent over $1,000 of staff time.
Okay.
4-hour meeting.
Mhm.
One of the reasons I'm gonna be the liaison is because we all, Jason and our staff is super overtaxed right now.
Mhm.
So, I'm not sure how it all set out. The council will discuss it, but, these committees may just meet quarterly. So we're still working through how that's gonna work, but we can't spend, $4,000, $5,000 on staff time for committees.
Gotcha.
We just don't have enough bandwidth.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that makes perfect sense.
so,
I guess-
that's what I mean by that. Not monetarily, no.
Gotcha.
You guys have SUR money, lots of options.
So if we were to find creative solutions within ourselves and volunteer work, we could potentially do.
Yeah, or and what I'm hearing is we probably need to start in November. So we have the calls at this time of the year, so we're not, backs against the wall trying to make quick decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I just took a note that start.
Correct. Yep, that sounds great. And just so you know, Mr. Mayor, this is an excellent working commission and, I think, I speak for myself, I'm always ready to lean in. And I think the school commissioners, yes.
Awesome.
And Ellie, you've done a great job, especially when Heather, you guys were amazing at getting different organizations to come in and help with volunteer time, which has been really great. So I think we have the community outreach that we could potentially work around some of the staffing problems.
Yeah, the biggest problem is their open meetings, so And it's not just this commission, you guys have done an amazing job. Fully support. It's just structurally from the city's perspective, how do we now have 6 committees commissioned and I restarted them. The intent was, I want public input, I want public engagement. You've got now some that have subcommittees that are meeting and then are actually representing themselves as the city of Sandpoint to state agencies without even going to council. So the enthusiasm of the committees is wonderful. It's just, we gotta put some guardrails in. So we're working through that, but yeah, no, hats off to Ellie and sorry, we can't give you 2 full-time dedicated employees, but such is life.
All right, well then, let's keep this moving then. If you guys are willing, let's say we have a motion to continue the Silver Box program 1 year, $1,000 per box to be installed in the spring. And if that motion passes, then we'll take it to Sura and we'll get the ball rolling.
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, Keely made the motion, Carol Diener seconded, all in favor? Any opposed? None heard, motion passes. All right, moving on then to number 5, Gretchen Heller Community Art Grant. So, Jason, did you do any
I
research on
got,
this?
yeah, Sarah indicated that there is funds that have been earmarked for an art grant. I'm trying to get clarity on the exact amount and whether there are any, because you had mentioned you had thought there might be some like match requirement or something for that.
So I did find some supporting documents. It looks like it's $2,500 and it came from the Idaho Community Foundation Bonner County Arts Enhancement Grant, supported in part by the Gretchen Heller Trust. So this was done during April 2017 is when we brought it to council. Carol, you were the chair at the time. So we ended up getting the grant. It does require a Sura match according to the council documents. So, and it also says that it was originally meant for phase 1 Cedar Street revitalization. So those are the things that I found on that document. So
Is your understanding that might have been for one of the corners where there's a pad board for?
I believe
Piece
it
of art.
was, because that was during that time when we were involved in the planning stages of the Cedar Street.
We have some permanent art fixtures on our downtown streets. Over on like Second and Church, I believe. Some of that vicinity.
Yes.
Does anybody have a knowledge of, Mayor, were you here when,
Second, what, Dave
when,
Thompson?
well, there's David Thompson, but there's some other sculptures. Oh, right around, the old Greasy Fingers, for example, there's the permanent sculptures on the corner there on Pine. Third,
Which,
do you have any background knowledge of what funded those? Was that part of a previous round of downtown
I was here
revitalization?
for David Thompson. I was not here for the other 2.
David Thompson is a public piece. That's okay. Wasn't sure if that was a,
Yeah,
Thanks.
so, no, but I guess the question is, and the action, you want to free up those monies, apply them to a future project to make sure we haven't committed ourselves to.
Correct. If that, I believe that money is still available because there was talks between Heather and Sarah that it was there and we needed to use it.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I'm asking right now is, let's get a subcommittee together and let's decide what we want to do with that. Well, yes,
Okay. Yes,
I mean,
yeah, no, I agree 100%.
we need to use it because
do.
it,
It's been there for a while.
yes.
We need to get new art in this town, so let's
Yes,
do
for
it.
sure.
Yeah.
So
You
I would love
may
to-
want to talk about on these next items, using some of it for the city parking lot.
That's coming up too.
Yeah, and we
Because
could
we're
just
not clear on what
pivot.
the new plan is, so.
Yep.
Well, all right, so the Gretchen Heller grant is not an action item, so basically, if you guys would like, we will put together a work team to discuss that and bring back some ideas for you guys. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Carol,
Yes, dear.
you're on the hook.
No, thank you.
All right, moving on then, the city parking lot, and this is a discussion on the update of parking lot. We had made some plans in the fall, and I actually haven't heard what the new plan is.
Sure, I can update you on that. So we will be going out for bid for resurfacing of the parking lot. Probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Putting new asphalt down, build asphalt, relatively minor changes to the swales. They go away to the tree commission. It's 4 hours the other day and got their recommendation to preserve 6 of the trees. So that's it in a nutshell, just resurfacing. There's some minor changes to the access point that are going to eliminate the north and south Church and Oak access point. Access will be off of Third. Purpose of that is to eliminate pedestrian conflicts. Right now, if you're pulling out on the north side, across a bike lane, a sidewalk, you get people backing out of Taekwondo. It's the intersection. So same at Joel's or across from Joel's. So that's the biggest change. We are speccing 2 digital calendars. Much like Rick's white paper, there's a really cool there that isn't a bright color, shine in your face, flashy. It's just a basically a digital kiosk calendar. Yeah, putting those on the westernmost corners, one facing Jeff Jones, one facing the intersection of purpose of that is dates on calendars, just civic engagement. We had thought about split rail fence and to dress up the parking lot, but it's constrained and at this point it's just new asphalt primarily. If you would be interested in Brandon's working, this is moving quickly, so Brandon's to you and you have thoughts on future locations for art to make this fun. Paint asphalt, we can look at, there's not a lot of space for installation of art, but certainly your expenditures or investment there. And we thought you have
What's the backside of the cow?
it's a, we don't have the product identified. There's
Would that be a spot though?
it's a pre-fabricated sort of product.
Yeah.
They're about 4 feet, 5 feet, 4 feet tall. And not sure if they're dual sided, but it's got a little canopy. It's got solar on the top. That helps power it. It kind of just says 2 pedestals.
So maybe an option for something on the backside.
Could be, yeah. Sure. Obviously that, the broader goal for the parking lot is, it's fine, is to dress it up so it's a represents arrival of the city nicer way. But obviously a huge opportunity for, as you proceed with the parking policy, which Jason's working on, that parking policy, if adopted by the council, will likely incorporate paid parking at various off-street parking spots downtown. But as all of that works its way through, it won't happen until next summer. There's going to be opportunity for signage, wayfinding that we're going to certainly need your help and direction on. But I'd like to roll this into a broader wayfinding consistency of all our downtown signage instead of the haphazard that we have. Probably all seen amazing examples of consistent context appropriate wayfinding in a community. So that's something I really look forward to your.
And then the trees, all internal, or is it any of the?
So the
exterior?
The project constraints are just interior of the sidewalks. So, what I recollect, the cedar clump on the southeast corner stays. There's, I think, two other clumps, including the spruce up there north. And then I think there's two others that get saved. But it'll look like a more traditional parking lot with some new lighting. 20-foot, cut off. Lights back. And then prepping it with the infrastructure for the paid parking, that entrance, technology is amazing. It's a license plate scanner. So when you drive in, it automatically scans your license plate. It knows your resident. You get the discount applied. You punch in your number, your slot. It knows who you are. Hey, if you're going to be there longer than the hours allotted for free parking are. If you want to buy more time, you can. If you happen to be in a rush and you drive out, intentionally leave, it scans your license plate on the way out, just like in Seattle or San Francisco or LA, you get a bill to them. So touch-free, friction-free parking enforcement. The big one for the city is no humans to pay. Unfortunately, love humans, but they're very expensive. So we just don't have the money to have a patrol down.
And then only one access.
Yeah.
Which one?
This would be
Which one
off the
stays?
third. None of the existing stay.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
new access directly across from the alley next to Southport Park.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And what would go on the calendar?
The calendar, I hear weekly, lack of public engagement. So it could be anything from big belly dump wraps
That's
to,
city.
yeah, a city informational. I'm thinking primarily, here's the meetings and agenda, Wednesday council meeting, planning commission meeting, here's the agenda items, but just again, an opportunity to try to engage the public because, if you've ever been to council meetings, it's usually valid and 30 people. So, want more community engagement, if the community wants to be.
Advertising or anything?
No.
Or?
Are you interested in putting that up there?
No.
But we
Sure.
don't, we're still looking through those vendors right now. And very least it'd be plumbed or conduit be prepared and get this all wrapped up. 3 weeks to get,
Earl, did you have a question?
Yeah, all the stuff that's on Farm and Park, that area where they have all the stuff they put on, are you gonna take that down or is that gonna stay there?
no, Farm and Park is not being touched.
So, okay, on that, so all the advertising and everything that's on that,
On the band shell,
yeah.
no, that hasn't come up, so that's not,
Okay, that'll stay with.
that's not, I just don't.
I know,
It's difficult to advertise as a city, although I believe Spot is going to do it. The challenge you run into is once you say, we will advertise, you can't say no. to-
so that, all that
People
stuff's gonna stay there.
You might not want advertising.
Okay, that's advertising then.
Unfortunately, there's groups and
I know, it's,
want advertising. It's not.
All right, well, that sounds good. We, in the fall, we had, decided that we would put some money forth towards the parking lot, so, in talk as a group, for a subcommittee and decide what would be appropriate.
Yeah, I think that would be wonderful because it is, it is, I called it the front door. People who've never been here and are gonna really set that tone of what is Sandpoint. So I think there's definitely gonna be an opportunity. I apologize that in the transition, we couldn't pull you in sooner, but trying to really do this before spring tourist season and that resurfaced right away and prepare as best we can for possibility for installations and content.
I have a Saturday job and I park in the parking lot and it makes, I'm looking forward to it.
It's needed some love for a long time.
All right then, any other questions? Let's move on then to commission business culture. we need to decide if we're going to do the summer walking tour and start planning that. We talked, Will, the museum liaison, talked to his people. The museum does their own tours of various other types, and they are perfectly happy to let the commission run the historic walking tour that goes with our brochure. So that said, we would love to do it. I would love to do it again. Michael Bigley did most of the tours last year. Thank him immensely for doing that as a volunteer. He can only do it because he's a teacher and he's off in the summer though. So I would love to see more volunteers. We can decide what days. We did it 4 times last year, I believe. Last Friday of month. It could even be a Saturday, whatever. What we call them is the historic storyteller. Again, Michael did a great job, but Val at the museum actually said she would, even though the museum won't be involved, she would help me gather some more volunteers.
That would be amazing, because that's the problem LPO's been having is we just don't have the people.
Yeah,
Michael and Andrew were our only sources, and Andrew lives in Spokane.
right.
And so Michael pretty much took the torch and held it and did a great job.
He did a great job.
But yeah, if LPO could get some support in training specifically, because that was the hitch in the ditch was Heather would take everybody on a tour, but she can only do it every so often.
Right.
But it's also, believe it or not, sometimes actors can be shy. So we had a lot of folks interested in participating and learning about the tour, but when it came to, would you like to lead one? It was, oh, I don't know if I know enough. I mean, Heather gave lots of details and Michael's an academic and
Right.
absorbs history like a sponge. So it was a natural thing for him, but finding those people is hard.
Well, I did talk to Michael and he did not have an actual script. He
Oh, yeah,
and
he
Heather
just-
had worked on it. But if we can get together, a basic script off of the brochure,
Mhm.
I think that would go a long way. And Michael did say that he would help train.
Awesome, because he's a
So-
writer, so he'd be great for that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I would say, this is an action item. So if you got, the other thing I was gonna ask is, the thing we talked about is dressing up as historic figures, and that's why I have LMA up here on the screen. LMA or one of the other historic figures. It'd be kind of fun for tourists and locals alike to kind of see history in action, as it were. So I would love that, and I would help get that together if we wanted to do costumes, borrow costumes. Share
We
them
don't
with the
have
museum.
anything in our stores right now that fit that time frame. Like we have lots of, how do I like say 19th century prior.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot of turn of the century stuff right now. So we have a lot of contemporary and a lot of like we did Ernest and we got so many
Oh, yeah, yeah.
beautiful things from that. But if we could have some help sourcing that and making sure they fit, because that's always the thing with costumes. Sounds easy, does hard.
Yeah.
So
Well, Val said she would help me work with that as well. So
Val,
Burgess, Barry's wife, she is the volunteer coordinator at the museum.
brilliant.
So- Share.
Share some notes.
Yeah, I want to share that. Just can't see. Um,
Just share your screen so you can whatever's on your screen will show up.
so the other thing that,
Just do this and you can navigate to it.
so Will Valentine from the museum brought up, what if we did a little sign like under the Canada marquee or something like that, that says tours start here? Then all of the tours, whether it's the museum, the city, whoever, have a place to start. So that's just an idea.
Would also tell people who are just walking by that there is a tour. So maybe we ought to think about going on a tour. Because there's a lot of traffic back and forth on the street in summer.
All right, so if everybody's cool with the idea of a summer walking tour and we need to get going on planning, that is it's listed as an action item, we may as well decide. So if anybody want to make a motion to continue planning the summer walking tour. Caitlin made the motion. Barry seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion passes. Awesome, we'll get going on that. All right, now we're on to commission business, historic preservation. This is number 8. And this is an update on the certified local government CLG grant. And we have some guests here. Dan Everhart and Alexis Matrone are here with us from SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office. Welcome, everyone.
Okay, a little background. CLG grants, we are a certified local government with State Historic Preservation Office. And several months ago, our Arts Culture Preservation Planner, Heather, brought the proposal to apply for their CLG planning grant. The grant application described a city match of $10,000 to come out of the planning budget for next year to total $20,000 that could be put towards the historic preservation planning effort for downtown, which there have been several discussions of in the last year. It's one of the highest priorities for city council and the mayor is for when the planning department is fully staffed for the city planner to oversee the long range planning effort of developing either a historic overlay district with building design standards that protect historic character within that district and historic preservation standards for existing buildings, or there are some other versions of how that might look as well, whether it's identifying certain buildings that are protected under an overlay. But the vision for this grant was to basically support that effort. At one point in the past, there was discussion of completely outsourcing that effort and having a firm from Portland or Boise just do it for us, just write the standards. But we believe that our planning team is perfectly capable of doing that. In fact, our city planner has overseen the development of historic standards in other cities in his career. It's right now it's a matter of bandwidth and capacity, but this grant will help us get there hopefully by the end of this year. If or when we come to the point where this commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission, our city staff have had a chance to review our existing building design standards in our commercial district and hopefully bolster those, enhance them to better describe the outcome we want to see in terms of building design and historic character downtown. I've shown Ellie kind of some examples, recent examples of what developers are allowed to do. And sometimes they are more than happy to do something better in terms of architectural design and historic character in their design. We just don't have standards that steer them in that direction right now. Our standards are very, they're very fuzzy. They're very loose. They're not directing development towards a particular outcome. They're basically preventing a particular outcome. So they're defensive standards, I would describe them as not standards that describe in great detail what we would like to see our buildings downtown look like. But it's actually quite easy to give developers direction on that. And sometimes it just means walking down First Avenue or walking around the corner and going up Cedar and looking at the Bellwood building or looking at even the Umpqua Bank building, which is a pretty good example of a modern building that has incorporated some historic character. So we don't have anything in code right now that is likely to result in that outcome. So the development of new code for downtown commercial A is kind of the purpose of this grant and helping us get to a product by the end of this year that we can incorporate into code and give developers kind of a clear guideline of what historic preservation and historic design in Sandpoint looks like. So maybe Dan or Alexis can talk a little bit more about the CLG program and how other cities have used this grant to help preserve historic character. That's something you guys are able to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what the grant was for was to create design guidelines. So right now, Sandpoint has a historic district that is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It does not have an overlaying local district. So, Just a couple things. Once that is passed through the city, then what this grant would do would be to hire a consultant to create those design guidelines of what the city would expect. So what developers could look at, what the business owners in this district would look at before making any changes. Usually it would have to go in front of the commission. A certificate of appropriateness would need to be applied for, and then the commission would discuss this and you know, either pass it or really it would have to go back and some changes would have to be made. Um, a couple things to touch on that you just discussed. Unfortunately, this grant would not support city staff working on these guidelines, the design review guidelines. It would need to go through a professional consultant that is qualified under the Secretary of the Interior standards and um, go that route. And then really what we're looking for, so this grant would also not go towards developing that ordinance, that overlay district. That would kind of already need to be in motion, and we would need support from the city or the city council, from the mayor, city council, that is already in motion and has the public support that will pass before moving on to the design review guideline, to establishing those guidelines. If Dan wants to jump in with anything else, I'm sure I missed a couple things.
I'll just clarify only that last element, which is that the reason why we would like to see some forward motion on the city's end in passing an ordinance is that these design guidelines, that is the project that was applied for, these design guidelines implement and facilitate an ordinance once it's passed. If the city chooses not to pass and implement an ordinance, then our expenditure on this grant would have no value. You wouldn't need the design guidelines that we were paying for. And so we're hesitant to proactively fund design guidelines without some assurances from the city that they will in fact pass and implement a design review ordinance. So I hope that makes sense. We have limited grant dollars. We have about $100,000 to give away. We receive upwards of $150,000, $160,000 worth of requests every year. And so we have to be cautious with our grant dispersal that we're funding projects that will actually be implementable. So there are lots of requests for our dollars. So I think you can understand from our perspective that we need to be judicious in how we fund projects. So that's all. I would just make sure that the city understands it's not that we don't wish to support your goals. We want to make sure that they actually are your goals before we fund a project. So you don't need to pass an ordinance, I guess. I need instead, what we asked Heather in the past was for a signed letter from the mayor, something from the council president, whatever it was that would help us feel confident that the city was intent on moving forward with a historic preservation design review process. And if the answer is we simply can't make those assurances right now as the city of Sandpoint, that will need to be taken into consideration in our grant.
Dan, just a question. Is there a cutoff deadline for your award and our application?
We're going to be making decisions here in the next month. The application deadline was at the end of January, but we do have some wiggle room. After we approve these applications, we do have to go back to the National Park Service and just basically get the commitment that we are going to receive. These grants are sub-grants from a federal grant that we receive at the State Historic Preservation Office. So we go back to the National Park Service and we usually get approval for that around August to September. So we'll send out approval letters here, or grant award letters here in the next month. And then in that few months that follow, we reach back out to the Park Service. So, I mean, I would say a couple months to get that guarantee or that support, that letter of support from you guys, I think is a okay timeline. In this letter, though, I also want to just touch on something Dan said. While we do want to hear that the support is going to come from the city, we also need to make sure that that's going to happen within the timeline of these grants. It is about a 2.5 year timeline before these grants have to be closed out with the federal government. So you do have a good amount of wiggle room. We just also need to know it's going to happen within that time so that we could complete the grant project as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that matches what we understand on our end, as far as the balance of staff working on the ordinance drafting, bringing ordinance through this commission, through planning and zoning to city council eventually, and the grant fund supporting the actual design standards later on.
The idea is we want to go this way. The community wants to go this way. No matter what.
It's been a priority for council for over a year now.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I mean, the challenge is, we've got 2 planners and we've got hotels, multifamily development. We issued more building and development permits last year. So we've got minimal staff doing tremendous amount of what we call current planning work. Ideally, zoning and ordinances are long-range planning that match up with our comp plan. And to pivot staff from current planning to long-range planning. So Bill can start working on the ordinances for the downtown, which is the council's highest priority. We need more staff to do current planning, which is what we're working on right now in the budget. And some of the recent changes at City Hall are intended to allow us to get another planner to do current planning so we can set Bill off on the long-range planning. So it's challenging to get done what we want to get done with the resources we have. But yes, this all aligns with the vision, and I think I can put together a reasonable and true statement about our commitment to this that would support our action. So I'll just need, I'll get that to you, Jason.
All right. Well, that sounds.
Dan, Alexis, can you give us examples of other cities that have used these grants towards this planning effort?
Yeah, right now I know that here, Dan, you know the communities a bit better than I do at this point.
Right, so I think right now we're undertaking a design review, design guideline process with the city of Nampa. But also in recent years, in the past 2-3 years, we've funded the city of Pocatello for a similar effort. We've done so in years past, and I mean, within the last 10 years with the city of Twin Falls, and before that, Caldwell, Boise, etc. So most of our local partners who have a design review process have funded the creation of a design guidelines through this grant program. So we're happy to provide other examples of what other communities' design guidelines look like, and without ruffling any northern feathers, probably the best example is the city of Boise. Of course, they have a larger budget, a larger staff, and their current design guidelines are pretty thorough, pretty easy to understand. That's ultimately what you want with the design guidelines program.
Are there any examples of smaller cities, Dan? I've heard Pocatello might be a good case study in terms of a smaller city that's successfully implemented historic overlay district.
Yeah, Pocatello does a great job, and their work recently to update their design guidelines. They would be similar to what I understand Sandpoint is considering, which is primarily a commercial district, and they're downtown. So that's how Pocatello implements their program at the moment. Pocatello's design guidelines would be reasonable to consider.
All right. Well, thank you for your presentation and for being here at our meeting. So it looks like the mayor's letter of intent is probably next steps, and hopefully getting staff, more staff in the city so that we have some wiggle room to get going on that. It sounds like we possibly might not get this grant this year, but is there a possibility of getting it next year if things don't work out this year?
I was
We can
gonna,
at least-
yes, I was gonna say, this is something that our office greatly supports. This is really where preservation districts like this they have teeth. They are able to protect, your historic resources. So it is definitely something that our office supports, and we do understand that timing may be a little bit difficult. So we're very open to receiving the same grant in the following year. Those applications open in November. And that gives you guys plenty of time to get that support, to begin the ordinance, the overlay district, and to start that process. So that's definitely an option as well, and we could keep communication open with that to keep that discussion going.
But dependent upon your timing, we are not opposed to funding this project in this year. We just need some, as I indicated before, we need some assurance from the city of your commitment. So if we receive that, there's no reason why we wouldn't fully consider the application in the current cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
Would there be any concern, without knowing the future, as far as funding drop next year for you all?
No, right now, all the information that we have is to continue to move forward as usual. There's been no threat to the Historic Preservation Fund as of now, and just our plan is to continue moving forward.
Great.
Great question, Rick. And the fact is, if we wait a year, a lot of things can change in downtown Sandpoint. So, my wish would be to be moving forward this year.
Yeah.
Alexa, can you just clarify, you didn't receive any communications from the feds saying pause funding or
No.
clawbacks?
No. And the way that our office budgets this grant, we are a year behind. So our funding is still moving forward, even with that additional year. The National Park Service has given us no reason to pause or no notification to pause any type of funding. So we're just moving forward with business as usual.
Just to elaborate on that, we are working in the past year's funding. This grant round is funded through the past year's funding. So, yeah, we are not, we have no indications, and, not to ladle on here, but the Historic Preservation Fund, which underpins this re-grant program, frankly, it underpins the historic preservation program at every state historic preservation office across the country. That is not to say that programs across the country haven't been impacted by recent administration decisions, but we'll have a lot more to worry about than just whether or not we can grant out dollars to our local partners. We will will be in a much more dire situation. So right now, we've no indication that there are threats to the Historic Preservation Fund, which frankly aren't tax dollars. They're found through different means. So yeah, we're cautiously optimistic as of right now that everything with our funding, both for our own office and for our local partners, is maintaining the status quo.
Excellent. All right, is there any other questions then, or Dan or Alexis? All right, well, I leave it to city staff and the mayor to be moving forward on this. All right, moving on then. Thank you, guys.
Thank you both.
All right, moving on then to the residential call for information and historic walking tour brochure. We are moving forward. We've had a couple meetings of our work team and with Will and Barry and I. We are finalizing picture swaps. There's some pictures in the current brochure that we cannot use due to copyright. So we are working with Will and the museum to swap in photos that are approved. And Commissioner Valentine, he's new, but he's been invaluable with the research and information that he's given us for the brochure, and I look forward to keeping on that. We should have most of the layout falls to me, but my goal is to have a preliminary layout for you guys to check out at the April meeting. Any questions on that?
Do we have extra brochure? Can't use or,
Extra brochures?
I mean, that haven't been handed out that have.
Yeah,
our
we still have
copyright?
a few.
Can we still hand those out? Okay.
Oh, yeah. But my goal is to get it to the printer and get it ready for summer distribution, right?
Perfect.
That's the goal. And I think we can make that, especially now. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just wondering how that's, what line item budget, does that come out of sewer dollars or?
Yes, we have $9,000, I think, allocated from Sura that is approved. So if there's no other questions on that, I don't think we need an action item. We're just keeping on. So then, is there any commission business? I had a few things I wanted to say. You know, I've been on the commission for 10 years and I have never had a name badge. I have access to laser capabilities, so I'm gonna make myself one. Does anybody else want a badge for when you're out at your meetings? I mean, I feel like now that we're the ones who are out in the community, I wanna make sure that people know who we are.
I lost my leadership badge, so I would really love a commission badge
Okay.
because that was one of my favorite badges to wear was leadership Sandpoint. Just so.
Okay, great. I'll reach out to you and I will donate those. All right, the other thing I was gonna say is, I know that Parks and Rec had some projects they might be wanting to partner with, so I'm gonna attend their meeting, which is tomorrow. And that's all I have. If there's any other general business. Doesn't sound like it. Do you have any general business, Mr. Mayor?
Ellie, I'll just, conclude by saying, yeah, I'll be your new liaison moving forward. Nothing against Jason, but, he is underwater, just with everything else he's dealing with. So, he's got a lot of departments and projects and their issues. So best use of his time is, to do those things. So I hope I live up to the lofty challenge because I know you've been great liaisons in the past. My best. And then in terms of, you know, what we do with commissions, I'll just, it's probably going to trend towards more of like the planning commission, where we have set meetings and when there's a issue or a topic that the city needs commission or citizen feedback on, we would probably initiate those meetings. So kind of flipping the format a little bit so that these are more responsive to the needs of the city, that they're not, just out doing things, because that's the intent. That's the reason I brought these back, is to provide the city council with feedback and resources on issues that council is struggling with. Really want this structure went away in part because it became somewhat adversarial to the administration and council's work. I don't agree with that. That's why I brought them back, because I think they're critically important. But we're struggling with the guardrails on it. Again, we only have so much bandwidth at City Hall, and I don't want to call it the tail wagging the dog, but we need to make sure that the directives and actions and goals of the council are the priority. And so it's going to be working through this process over the next few weeks. But right now we've got the unintentional consequences of bringing these back, as I now have 5 or 6 commissions and huge demands on staff with liaisons and public meetings and agendas, and it's taking away from the mission, which is in this case, zoning that we're trying to get, so we can get that historic district set up. So bear with us, bear with me and the council. Thank you so much. You've done amazing work, continue to do amazing work. Fully supportive of arts and historic work. It is what makes living in Sandpoint special, makes us distinct from other communities. It's part of our core of who we are, and I want to make sure you understand that. What you've done and continue to do is critically vital to our character. I want you to take this the wrong way, but a few horses out of the barn that I need to figure out how to get back in. So keep you updated and informed as that progresses.
Go ahead, Will.
After we adjourn, I have a show and tell item back in elementary school about a building that never got built in downtown Sandpoint. So if you want to see it, show you what I got. It's just really not part of this meeting, but it's really interesting. But I have it here if you want me to talk about it, but it's not part of it.
I love history. Heather brought me one of the hotel that they almost built.
Yeah, that's what this
Oh,
is.
yeah, I've read the whole prospectus. Fascinating. If you can stay around and we don't break any rules, it's really fascinating. Gentlemen and ladies were trying to do to drive the economy downtown in Sandpoint.
All right, with that, is there any other announcements that anyone has? I wanted to talk about the Bonner County Historic Museum. They're having an event called Sunday School Saloon, Lion-Hearted Ladies of Bonner County. And that is Saturday, March 22nd at 3 p.m. at the Hive. Don't miss that. Sounds great. Anybody else?
Canada is gonna have our first gala. Bring that kind of harken back to Hall Eve, a different angle to a kind of curated variety show every year, and it's always gonna be around Mother's Day, the Friday before Mother's Day, to give a nod to the Canada moms and go forward and start recognizing women or men that have really cared for the Canada. And so that's kind of the theme, Canada history and honoring people that care. That's gonna be May 9th this year.
Thanks for sharing that. Any other announcements then? All right, thanks, everybody. Let's go ahead and adjourn.
Thank you, y'all.
And